lot more trial and error than I'd like to admit through this, but I also wanted to just have a video for people who are interested in competing and don't really know what they need to compile for information, how to get ready for the show, all the things that I feel like I had to go out and research and just put it into one video. I'm going to try to make it pretty efficient, and I can always clarify it in the comments or however, but let's get into it. So, hello. I know it's been a minute. I'm officially 2 weeks out. This is my meal. It is literally just 8 ounces of ground chicken with just some random stuff in it. So, little update from the last video that I made to this video. Protocol didn't really change until this week, I feel like, because I was really just holding steady and I was still losing all the calories that I was on. I was still getting visibly leaner as well. So, quick update. I dropped calories this past week and I'm going to drop calories this week to get tighter, mostly to see, I just got off my period, so it's really hard to gauge, but see some water weight drop off and stay on top of just a little bit lower carb right now. And then I'm going to do a mid-load come peak week. So I wanted to make this video for anyone and everyone who didn't really want to purchase a coach, possibly just needed some guidance from the internet on how to coach yourself to get prep ready or stage ready. A little caveat, I'm not just someone who loves exercise. I do have my degree in exercise science and I have been a personal trainer for almost a decade now. So this was the final frontier of fitness for me. And so I got all of my information from other people competing, of course, my coaching experience, as well as just through research online. So I felt like it was only fair to make a blueprint of prep. And then I'll also do a video later after my show of things that I wish I knew before. Because I have a feeling that I'm also going to make a series about coming into an off season and such things. So this video is for you if you are interested in bodybuilding. Maybe you're entering your first show and you just want to make sure you got everything covered. Whatever it may be, definitely for newbies. I'm a newbie. This is going to be my first show. I'm not a newbie in the fitness space. I have been in the fitness realm for a long time and I know my stuff. So I'm going to give you my blueprint of things that I made sure to take care of before my show. Nutrition, workouts, my prep diary reflections, which will be on my phone, and I have my iPad for my notes. So let's go. So first, you need to decide what division and what federation you're going to compete with. I know I wanted to be a natural athlete. No knock to if you want to use PEDs. That was something that I knew about myself well before even considering bodybuilding. I don't want to be an enhanced athlete. That's just my preference. There's honestly, I just love what the natural human body can do, and I'm not interested in having to keep track of all the health metrics that come with being an enhanced athlete, and it's just not my jam. So I decided to go with the OCB, but there's other federations like the IFBB, the NPC, and I believe that some of them have natural branches. But I just decided to go with the OCB because it was the first one that popped up. It looked pretty organized for the most part. It was easy to navigate their website. It was easy for me to find shows. And so I just went with OCB. And I decided to go with wellness. Look into the different divisions. I'm speaking for women. I can't really say much for the men's divisions because I don't know the criteria for each of them. But my understanding as of now with, and I don't know the order of the bigger after wellness as well. I know there's physique and figure, and I don't know if they still do women bodybuilding, but there is, what is it called? Fit Pro, is that what it is? The very new one, which is a step down from bikini. Bikini was getting a little more muscular, so I don't know if that's why they created the fit division, but there's the fit, there's the bikini, there's wellness, then there's figure, physique, bodybuilding. Don't know the order of which those go in terms of mass, but those are after wellness. Wellness is kind of in the middle. That's what I chose because I've always had a bigger lower body than my upper body, and I've always had a more athletic physique, and they're looking for an athletic, asymmetrical to the lower body physique, and genetically I'm bent that way, so I felt like it was the best one for me. Not quite long and lean enough for bikini, and I don't want to have more symmetry like the other divisions after wellness. So that's how I chose wellness. Do what makes sense for your body type. If you have to put on a bunch of muscle, this is the biggest mistake that I have seen thus far, is that girls will decide to go into wellness because that's the physique that they would want for themselves, but it's not necessarily the best physique for where they are currently. And so make sure that if you are thinking about competing, I always recommend having at least a year where you build towards whatever division you're in. And if it's bikini or fit pro, I'm so sorry if I'm botching the new name of that, but you might be able to just start your prep and come into the right physique since they're more symmetrical and you don't have to have as much muscularity. But if you're thinking about the wellness figure physique, you should spend some significant time building some good muscle. And that's why I chose wellness, because that's how my lifts were anyways. They were lower body bias. So just happened that I've been building my workouts in a lower body bias way for a long time. And so figure out which division and which federation you want to be in and go after it. Look into their website. You will have to register for a show. You can wait to register for the show. That's the next step. Find a show that you want to prep for, and the deadline is usually 4 weeks out. So if you really want to see what you can do, I think the average prep is usually 12 to 16 weeks, depending on how lean you want to get or how far away you are from your idea of what you need to look at, like, or lose per stage. I would decide based off that. But so decide and then pick a show and start your prep for that show. And you can always pick a different show, but you need to register for whatever federation you sign up for. So I have to be a member of the OCB. You just get an amateur card, and then when you win your pro card, you'll register for the pro. But that goes for almost all of them, I think. You need to register and get a membership for the federation, and you have to pay a fee. That's also something, is that there's quite a bit of money that has to go into this stuff. And so you pay a fee for the show as well as the membership. And then, of course, once you get your pro card, you have the opportunity to win money back. So it's kind of like an investment in some way where you could win it. Not really like a lottery, but you get what I mean. Zuko, he is afraid of the tripod, and so he walked past it. Now he won't walk past it again. But figure that out, and then figure out if you want to stay natural. And if you don't go natural and you don't know a lot, or if you'd like to be enhanced, get a coach, honestly. I think that it's really dangerous to play with that kind of stuff on your own, especially as a woman. So I would recommend that if you do want to go that route, that you at least have a consultation with somebody who knows what they're talking about. Then also just make sure that you understand the process of the federation that you choose. For example, since the OCB is tested, I have to be there the day before the show to check in, do a polygraph, and all of that jazz. So I don't know what the steps look like for the other federations, but I do know that I have to be at my hotel by Friday, so probably wanting to check in by Thursday is what I'm doing. And then when you sign up for the show, I'm doing my first show in Colorado Springs, and there'll be a different host for every show that you do, or promoter, and they're usually the one who will be emailing you and sending you information. For example, the promoter for the Colorado show, she's really communicative, and she sends emails to update us on what we need to know. She sent us information about the host hotel, a discount code for the host hotel, which I chose to stay at the host hotel because that's also where the show promoted Tanner is, who is also the promoter. And so she's going to have a room set up in the host hotel that we can come and get our tan in, which I thought was very convenient. And the host hotel also had kitchen in the room, so I chose that. But if not, just choose a hotel or Airbnb close to where you need to do check-ins or close to where the show is. Just know where you're going. The addresses are posted, and if you don't know, email the show promoter and they'll give you all the information you need to know. But having that stuff sorted beforehand and knowing how long the drive is, when you need to check into the hotel, where the hotel is, where check-ins are, get all of that information. I saved it all in my email as well as in a folder in my notes app on my phone because I use that for everything, but you could also put it into a Google Doc or somewhere else. But get organized with that stuff before, because as you start to get into peak week, you're going to start forgetting stuff and you're just going to feel really overwhelmed. So having all of that taken care of prior to is going to help a lot, and that's what I'm doing. And then, of course, once you pick your federation, every federation also has different rules for suits and posing. Honestly, the differences aren't that big, but you just want to make sure that you look into it. I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm just saying that I didn't have to spend a lot of time figuring this out. It's really simple just to go to the website of the federation and find their rules for each division. And then figuring out the posing for whichever division that you chose. Bikini poses. And what you do on the stage for bikini is much different than wellness. Wellness has quarter turns. Bikini has your front pose, your side pose, back pose, you walk, and whatnot. And the figure and physique routines are much different than the wellness routines. Wellness, of course, we have front pose, quarter turn, and then back to the front. And then they can ask you to do more. They can ask you to move and switch with people. And so understanding how to walk, get your heels as soon as you sign up or decide that you're going to so that you can practice. And then a suit, of course. So all of those I get beforehand so I know what I'm expecting. And then just build from there. So that is the dart. And when you build from knowing what your suit's going to look like, the color, you can start figuring out your hair and your makeup and get all that stuff sorted at least while you're going through prep instead of feeling like you have to rush it in the end. They do have the tanning was really easy to set up through when I signed up for the show. They also have it to where you could also sign up to get your makeup done or make an appointment for that. I want to do my own makeup because I don't wear a lot of makeup. I'm very specific about what I like on my face for the product and the style. And I can make it look decent. I'm not a makeup guru by any means, but I can make it look alright. So figure out what you want to do with that stuff. And then figure out, I got extensions that I did myself. So figure out when you want to do that. Start figuring out how to style it. I started doing that about 5 weeks out. I started playing around with hair and makeup and getting the products that I want to use if I didn't already have them. And just figuring out the look I wanted to go for. And I did all of that. Sorry, my chicken is done. Let's go get it. I did all of that before I even started getting lean enough for stage. But let's go get my chicken. So when you're figuring out all of that stuff, you'll be able to start to put together other details. I decided I'm doing matte black stiletto nails, anything like that to where you could, what the heck? Just figure out while you're doing prep. And honestly, it gives you stuff to think about while you're prepping. Or for me, while I'm doing my cardio, it gives me stuff to look into, play around with, or have charts and stuff made of things that I'm figuring out with hair and makeup. And also just experimenting on if I want to do something drastic or if I just want to stick to what I know works for my face, which is what I'm kind of deciding to do. It's going to be a version of this that's a little more beat so that there's obviously a little more under eye, a little more contour. My brows, I don't have anything in my brows right now. And then I'm going to do a lip that plays nicely with the emerald green, which might be something like this, almost like a poison kind of vibe. And then I'm doing my hair down with those overnight rod curls, like a blowout. Silver makeup because there's silver detail on the suit. And I got the suit. That's the next step is, I know I mentioned it already, but finding a suit. Let me show you guys. I got my suit off of Depop. And it just happened to be in my size. And so you want to figure out what the suit cut needs to be and what the back needs to look like. They do not like thongs, so you want to make sure that it's the right cut for your division. And the figure bikinis look much different too. And then this is the top. And there's websites where you can get some, and you don't need to get a sparkly one. This just happened to be in my price range on Depop. But there's also some plain suits that you can get from Etsy or Amazon and add your own bedazzles to them if you'd like, or you can go gung-ho and just get something that you really like if you think that you're gonna want to keep that suit. They also recommend having a couple different ones just in case yours doesn't pass that check-in. So I do have a gold suit just in case I can't get in with that one. And of course, just focus on what you can afford in the beginning. It is expensive. And then I got some shoes from Shoe Fairy. They are worth it. And just look at what length that you want. There's minimum and maximums, I believe, for platform and heel in different divisions. And so just go with what you feel like you can walk in. I believe the shortest, you can go with 3.5 or 4, and like 5, I believe, is the tallest. And the platform can be like 1.5 inches, I believe. But get what is comfortable for you and what you feel your posing is the best in. And If you can find a way to try different ones, try. I also ordered the Amazon ones, just because I know how much better the Shoe Fairy ones were until I went to Opposing Clinic and they were talking about them, and I just figured it was worth it. So, and I love that they're sparkly and beautiful. So, from there, you start the other details of prep. So that's like the fun stuff. And then figure out your timeline. Like I said, most people need 16 to 24 weeks, and a safe pace is about half to 1% body fat per week. Leaner people will use the lower end. And then monitor stress feedback based off the weight loss. So sleep, strength, irritability. I'm keeping really good sleep and strength right now. My cycle has been thrown off, so my irritability has been a little bit weird. But I know I've been in a good deficit because I'm losing scale, I'm losing visibly, and I'm keeping pretty good strength. Like, I can still 205 for 10. So I feel good about that. And make sure that you are keeping up with like fiber and digestion. Don't worry too much about fine-tuning your carbs and like diuretics, laxatives, water. Get a good deficit, stick with it, and monitor everything. Be in control of the variables. Figure out what your protocol needs to be. My protocol for everything else, obviously hit my macros. Your macros are going to be different person to person. I aimed on high side protein, moderate carbs, moderate fat, and then just went down when biofeedback stopped. So if my weight stalled for 5 to 7 days and I was on top of all my protocols, I will cut my calories a little bit to keep the weight loss going because your body does adapt. And so anchor your protein first because that's going to be what preserves muscle. And you still want to because you need training fuel. And I always centered my carbs around my breakfast since I worked out in the mornings. And then you want to figure out what all of your refeed will look like. And I just did refeed days when I would feel weak for like multiple days in a row. I just had a lot of things that like shouldn't have been happening, like weight stalling, holding on to water, being really fatigued during workouts. And so then I would do a day where I would eat like 50 to 100 more of carbs and keep everything else the same. And then as I'm dropping weight, I'm dropping protein just a little bit as I come into peak week just for digestion. But I kept it about 180. My body weight when I started was around like 150. So it's going to 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight, up to 2.7 if you're really lean. Fat, half to 1 gram per kilogram. Don't like go super bad for your brain. And then carbs just fill the rest. So usually it's like 2 to 6 per kilogram depending on your training and like your body metabolism and stuff. For me, for lifts, you don't really have to overthink that part as much. If there's certain areas that you really need to hammer because they're weak, like my glute hamstring tie-in I really hammer, then kind of those in those days. But especially as you drop calories, you drop the fluff a little bit. So just work on the things that you need to maintain. Like for me, I do a lot of shoulders, some back maintenance, some chest maintenance, a little bit of curls, a little bit of tricep, but mostly shoulders, and then cardio. And then lower body right now, I'll do like 3 hard lifts. Maybe that looks like a hip thrust, a hack squat, and a reverse lunge, and then maybe like some kickbacks, some string curls, some abductions, and then cardio. So workouts, you don't have to overthink and you don't have to like fucking dig yourself a fatigue hole in order to get the body that you want. A lot of your building is done in the off season and you're just chiseling and fine tuning during prep because you don't want to sacrifice losing muscle by doing too much. And then you want to prioritize hypertrophy in your key areas. So for wellness, it's glutes and hamstrings. And then I keep in some heavy lifts for me to be able to just keep some volume in my muscles so I don't flatten out come show week. Wanting to keep some size as well as, of course, pumping it up. The final weeks, so the last video I made, you're wanting to reduce fatigue, really be good on form, slow things down if you need to. 1 heavy set to maintain your strength, and aiming for like volume targets per 12 to 20 sets between glutes and hamstrings, 10 to 16 sets for delts and back, and other stuff at maintenance of 6 to 10 sets, and that's per week. So it doesn't have to be this huge amount of volume, and of course, you want those to be clean volume to where you can really get some engagement and repetitions in. Like, this isn't volume in those sets. And junk volume is like, you're just doing it and you're not really pushing yourself. So, and you want the intensity in the first, if you're doing a 16-week prep, from week 16 to week 10, you want your RPE, your rate of perceived exertion, or how, I'll put it in like layman's terms, how it is on a scale of 1 to 10. You want to aim for like 7 to 9 out of 10 in intensity. And then from 10 to weeks, you want to drift into 2 to 3 reps in reserve. So you could have 2 to 3 reps left in your tank just to like preserve your joints. And then after 6 weeks, you want to aim for like 2 to 4 reps in reserve and focus on tempo and just stability. Like, really, mind muscle is really important from 6 weeks until week, and on the stage even. So as you go into prep, you also want to pick things that reduce fatigue. So machines, stable compounds, ice from barbell to Smith machine for like squat and like hips, or things that like you aren't doing all of the work, but you can still really challenge yourself and get some good repetitions in, just because you don't want any soreness coming into close to show, or any extra. So keeping things like you're really just holding the line really at the point of like 6 weeks and really trying to just make sure that you are stimulating the way you need to. And then you have a good program, obviously, to follow and switch things up when you need to. And knowing that posing is a part of your program too. I always just brought my heels to the gym and did my posing right after. It helps to watch it every day, and it does get better. Do not. My posing was so bad. Okay. When I'm my post show, I will maybe not be too embarrassed to show the difference. But I learned a lot, and I learned it all online, especially for posing. I would watch other people posing I did watch some like posing tutorials on it, but I would watch other people doing like posing flows or on Instagram, and that's how I just kept practicing. And if I found that something, like, I would video, and if I found that something didn't flow, I would look up how to make it better, and just go from there. So it's really just something that you learn. But maybe I'll do a posing video, because I don't want to go into detail, but there are a lot of things to like be aware of posing, and a lot of things that like really helped me. So maybe if that's something that people want, I'll make one, but I don't really feel like doing it on this video. Make sure that your recovery plan, so like, are you doing on off days? Are you like doing deloads? And for me, like, I really prepared my body coming into prep, because I was doing mini cuts before I like actually decided to prep. So I officially started in like November, and then my first show is like, so I'm almost prepping for about a year. But making sure that you have like refeed plans, or knowing what to for when you want to refeed, and that'll help a lot. The biggest shift you have to make is in your mindset. And competing is something you do, not who you are. And really just make sure that you have an identity outside of this as well, because it's really stick to, and you have to really want to do this out of love for yourself. And it will expose a lot of things that you've thought about your body and yourself and your training. It'll expose a lot of things that you thought you were doing really good. It's a journey, honestly. And knowing, like, having a post plan to like start thinking about now before you hit the stage, so that you don't like get overcome by chance, and just really make sure that you know like how many calories you should still track your calories after, maybe if you want like a meal but I would even just like not super encourage crazy, so that there's not like eating disorder behavior you post show, but of course have some stuff that you haven't been able to enjoy guilt free, but just make sure that you understand what you're getting into and how to come out of it. So all in all, I gotta get my potatoes out of the